Islam's leftovers squaring up here, me, and I cannot wait for this one because I feel like this one has Fight of the Night written all over it. We got Mean Bobby Green taking on Drew Dober, and if we look at these guys' records, they are so similar. It's honestly amazing, right? 20th UFC fight for Bobby Green, 10-8-1 is his record. 20th UFC fight for Dober, 11-7-1 is his UFC record. So it's honestly pretty crazy that these two guys haven't crossed paths yet because one would have thought that throughout both of their long tenures. I mean, both these guys have been with the promotion since at least 2013. That they would have crossed paths by now, but glad that they're finally doing so here and in a fight where I think both guys really could use this victory to sort of reinsert themselves back in those top 15 conversations. And Bobby Green, we know, was honestly kind of peaking, right? He had two straight beautiful wins. He finished Raging Al Iaquinta, took out Nasrat Hack after that. Shout out to all the Hack meat boys out there. And then obviously he ran into Islam. He came in on short notice and got smoked in the first round, which was to be expected. But those two fights before that was a version of Bobby Green that we hadn't really seen in a while because he had dropped those two straight to Fiziev and Moises. He had picked up wins over Alan Patrick and Lando Venata, but those guys are mid-tier at best and just didn't know what Bobby Green had left. So it was good to see him sort of revamp his career with those wins over Hackbrass and Iaquinta. But if you look at Dober, he is also coming out on two beautiful wins in a row as well, right? He just absolutely finished Rafael Alves. Easy work, performance of the night finish where he was kind of landing whatever strikes he wanted to and ultimately flatlined him with that beautiful punch to the body. And before that, he picked up a nice win over Terrence McKinney as well. And if you remember how that fight went, Terrence McKinney was unloading everything on Drew Dober, just fracking him with meat bomb after meat bomb, and Drew Dober managed to just cover up just enough, managed to wither that storm, and ended up getting a first-round finish of his own when Terrence McKinney kind of blew his wad. So a beautiful comeback win for Dober, and again, two straight for him, and the only losses he had prior to that win streak was a fight against Brad Riddell where you and I were at that fight. It was a razor-thin fight of the night, a beautiful contest in a prelim headlining spot, and another loss to Islam Makhachev, similar to Bobby Green. So Dober is still a guy who you might argue is at his peak. I mean, he is 34 years old. Bobby Green is 36, but both these guys still have a lot of juice left in the tank. So are you going to roll with Drew Dober to continue his win streak, or does Bobby Green start a new one of his own? Who you taking?
Yeah, this is such a great matchup, and nothing makes me happier than when the UFC fighter calls out a fighter and the UFC, answers those wishes. Man, it's very tough because, like you said, they're basically identical records, identical fighters. They've lost versus very similar guys. Both got destroyed by Islam, sadly. But I gotta take my boy Drew. I mean, what fight have I not picked Drew? You know what I mean? Like, that's my guy. I gotta keep riding with him, and he's on a nice fight win streak, and I think he's gonna make a three-peat after this one. I think Bobby Green is on his way out. And I think he might get knocked out first round. This is going to be fight of the night nonetheless, and how I see this going is Drew Dober demolishes Bobby first round. If he doesn't get the finish, Bobby has a great gas tank, and I could see him weathering the storm and maybe getting a third round finish. This is going to be a hectic fight, a very exciting fight. This is a fight you guys do not want to miss either way. Both these guys are going to come in there to bang, and should be very exciting. Super pumped. I like the odds. The odds I think are very reasonable, but yeah, I got to go with Dober KO.
Interesting call for sure. And yeah, the odds, as you touched on, minus 150 is the favorite for Drew Dober. Plus 130 is Green. And if we look at Tapology, 68% is rolling with you. They're taking Drew Dober. Majority is beige, though. They think that decision is most likely. 32% is rolling with Bobby Green. And similar story there, a lot of beige. So seems as though whoever Tapology is picking, most do think that this will go the distance. I got to be honest with you, I'll be very surprised if Dober is able to sleep Bobby Green. The only guy to put Bobby Green out with a one-punch sleeper slobber knocker was Dustin Poirier way back in 2016, and Bobby Green is a guy who can just eat shot after shot after shot, and oftentimes is impossible seemingly to put out with strikes. So I am kind of with Tapology in that whoever wins this is likely to be by decision. How do you think if Dober doesn't knock him out early, how do you think he will fare in those later moments? Let's say round 2 and round 3, because we know Bobby Green is a guy who is one of those rare breeds who seemingly gets better as the fight goes on, right? Like the later you go into a Bobby Green fight, the more challenging it becomes for you as his opponent. So, are you at all worried that if Dober doesn't get the early first round finish as you're anticipating, that he might get dragged into deep waters and will drown there? Or are you confident that even if it gets past round 1, Dober will have what it takes to compete in the later stages with Green?
Yeah, no, 100%. I think he should be ready for the later rounds, but Bobby's always had proven great cardio, great endurance, so and he's a tough guy, so I think he's going to shine in the later rounds while Drew Dober's going to shine in the early rounds.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. And, maybe it even looks similar to that Fiziev contest where Fiziev just absolutely beat the brakes off of Bobby Green. Somehow Bobby Green wasn't finished, however. And then once that third round started, Fiziev was like, oh, crap, I have to do this for another 5 minutes when he literally had nothing left in the tank. And we know that if that fight would have gone 5 rounds, Bobby Green probably gets a late finish because Fiziev had nothing for him in that third round. And definitely wouldn't have had anything for him if he survived and made it to 4 or 5. So I see where your head is at for sure on this one. It's always difficult to pick against Drew Dober, but I got to roll with Bobby Green in this one. I just think that he's going to be a little bit more well-rounded than Dober. I don't think Dober's going to be able to sleep him with that YOLO meat bomb, and as a result, Bobby Green is going to mix it up, be able to survive those early dangerous moments. And I honestly think that this fight might look like the Dober versus McKinney contest, except where Dober now becomes McKinney and Bobby Green becomes Dober, in the sense that Dober's going to blow his load and Bobby Green's going to capitalize late with a second round victory and a third round victory, and ultimately a unanimous decision. Got to roll with Bobby Green. Don't blame me though for picking Drew Dober. Any last thoughts?
No, great matchup, great fight. Throw in the comments who you taking. You taking the King or Drew Doby?